Here we are, nearly a year, can you believe it, into the pandemic, and the CDC is out with a new controversial report. So it looked at school districts in North Carolina and in Wisconsin, and they found schools that followed safety protocols did not contribute to the spread of the virus in any significant way. Now, this is tricky because on the other side, school districts in major cities like New York and Chicago are having serious trouble reopening after teachers have resisted going back because of safety concerns. I also should say too, Jeff, you look at these studies, and how do you know if the reports are factual, if the people are asymptomatic or they're not reporting the testing accurately? There's so many other caveats and variables. I'm afraid to believe any of this. And I hate saying that considering it's coming from the CDC, but let's just pause for a second and maybe talk to some other experts.
Well, I'll get on the CDC thing too about being skeptical, but first I think we have to break it down in category, right? Are we talking about pre-K? I have a 2- and a 4-year-old. Are we talking about junior high? Are we talking about high school? Are we talking about college? We have to break those down, right? Are we talking about inner cities? Are we talking about suburban schools? Those are also into the factor, right? When you talk about the CDC, think about what our former judicial system, our former president, I didn't want to go there, but I couldn't think of the other word. Our former administration, that's what I was looking for. Our former administration said, listen, we need to get back in school, right? And everyone's like, no, because our former administration said that. Now the CDC is saying that, and everyone's like, well, now we need to get back in school. So it's where you come from, where the skepticism comes from as well, right?
Erica, how do you feel about this?
Erica, you like how I dance around that one?
I'm like, there was a lot of tap dancing going on. Like, so I think that you're right in the respect that there's so much information out there, but we have to be very specific about this. We're talking about a certain region and a certain school district. I know my mother has been in education for like 40 plus years. She's still working in education in a lot of respects where she was going into the schools. She's not going back into the schools now because it is unsafe for her to do so. We have to consider also, when you're sending your children to school, do you have multi-generational homes where you might have an elderly person in the home? And now this child who may be asymptomatic from another child who was asymptomatic is bringing the coronavirus back into your home. So there are all of these things we have not addressed.
Amen. And Tori, that's life or death, what Erica just said. What Erica just said, that can be life or death in every household. And believe me, I am not dismissing or diminishing the fact that so many teenagers, children out there are going through their own personal hell, right? Being separated from their friends, being in situations where maybe they don't have the best family unit, or maybe they do have the best family unit and it's still impacting their mental health. So I understand that. But I also know, coming from someone that's dealing with family members with COVID right now and one family member in the ICU, I also know that this is life or death.
And I totally understand that too, Sam. You know what's so interesting, though? I'm with you. I'm like, what about the teachers? What about the administrators? What about the sanitation workers? All of those people, it's life and death. But I have an example for you. The 5th largest school district in Nevada, the Clark County, has 326,000 students enrolled, right? And they have been remote since March 2020. Since those 9 months, 19 students have committed suicide. And it's incredible because now they're trying to figure out a way to stagger the students, because that's also life or death, right? The lack of social abilities to be with other people, to voice, to have friendships. So I'm just letting everyone know I'm confused too on where to stand, but I know it's life or death in both situations.
Well, great point, Tori. In fact, all of our viewers are commenting in faster than I can keep up with. We have Veronica on Twitter saying, I'm so ready for schools to reopen. I'm no teacher, and at-home learning has been a nightmare in my house. Ramin says this report from the CDC is a rural setting with small classes. It does not translate to large urban school districts. And finally, Michelle says, my concern is that children don't get tested unless symptomatic, making it hard to assess asymptomatic transmission in school. Well put. I think we're all on the same page, but I feel like we have no further clarity. Right. So we need to figure this out, please.
Tori's not on the same page because she turned it while you were reading. Did you hear that?
I did.
Camera? Was that on camera?
Nobody
very studious. Very studious, Tori.